Assalamu alaikum. Let's cook. Okay, people, I'm gonna give you the details to this story, and I want some opinions in the comments. Now, this story goes back to the year of 1954, Louisville, Kentucky. And you're gonna let me know, in your opinion, do you think this white man purchased this house for this black family just so white people can blow it up? Now, here's how it goes. Again, Louisville, Kentucky, the year is 1954. There's a black man by the name of Andrew E. Wade. He's a World War II veteran. He works as an electrician and electrical contractor. He also owns his own small business. He has a wife, her name is Charlotte Wade, and he has a 2-year-old daughter named Rosemary Wade. His wife is pregnant with their second child. Okay, this is the black man. Now, this black man right here, he wants to buy a house for his family in a nicer neighborhood, in a better neighborhood. Okay, this is a regular working class black man, talented, has a business, makes some money, and he wants to buy this house in a white neighborhood, okay, which is something you can't do in the year 1954. Ain't going down, and white people are like, no, we don't want you here. But he wants to move his family into this nice neighborhood, okay? They can afford it. But they're like, no N-words allowed. So after being repeatedly refused to get this house because they're black, they accepted help from a white civil rights activist named Carl Brayton and his wife Ann Brayton. Now, who are these people? These two of them so-called white folks who wanted equal rights for black people at this time. Carl and Ann Brayton, they were committed civil rights activists. This white couple right here, they work with various labor organizations and progressive political groups, which frequently overlap with civil rights activism. So these two white people, they were those white people at that time, you would say, so-called wanted better things for black people, equal rights, were against racism, okay? So now, how does these two families merge? Now, this black man, Wade, and the Bradens, they know each other through Louisville's interracial civil rights and progressive circles. And that's how they kind of formed a relationship in the late 1940s. Andrew Wade, the black man, he first met Carl and Ann Brayton when he did electrical work at a union hall where the white couple, the Braytons, worked in public relations. And after that, they would occasionally see each other at other, interracial meetings and social gatherings and things like that. So that's how this black man knew these white people, the Bradens. Now, 1954, Andrew Wade, he spends mad months trying to buy a house. He wants to get a house in this white neighborhood. Every time he tries to buy the house, they realize he's black, boom, no sell. So a white real estate agent eventually told Andrew Wade that the only practical way for you to buy a house in this white neighborhood is to have a white person buy it first and then transfer it over to you. So Andrew Wade's like, bet, okay, that's what I'm gonna do. So he asked several other white people to do this for him, white people who he know. They declined. So then he approached Carl and Ann Brayton. They agreed without hesitation because they said they believed that he should have the same right as anyone else to buy a home where he chose. So boom, they did it, it worked. Andrew Wade and his family, they move into the house. They're happy, we got it. So this is what happened after the Wades moved into this house. First they move in, right? May 15th, 1954, with their young daughter Rosemary, and also, again, remember his wife Charlotte is pregnant. Now this home is on a spot called Roan Court, near Chivley, outside Louisville, Kentucky, in a neighborhood all white. Hostility started immediately. Once the neighbors discovered that this black family moved in, they got all kinds of threats, harassment. They did all kinds of, white peopling. They started to walk by the house, look, point fingers, do all kinds of stuff. Then eventually, a wooden cross was burned on their property, to scare them up. This is the Klan right here. The white people threw rocks through their windows, all kinds of stuff. But bust their windows on a regular, gunshots fired at the house. You know, somebody fired shots into their house, and through all this, they still lived there. They stayed there, people. They got constant intimidation from the white community. So 6 weeks straight, the Wade family faced repeated threats, vandalism, violence. Okay, sometimes people who actually liked them stayed near their property to help protect them from these white people, man. Then eventually, on the night of June 27, 1954, the house was bombed. Dynamite exploded under the house. The dynamite was placed under the near bedroom area used by the young daughter, Rosemary. This is like a 2-year-old girl. Miraculously, everybody survived and they were all inside. Nobody was killed. Now this house suffered mad damage. They couldn't live in it anymore. It was impossible. But Andrew Wade said that he's going to stay. After the bombing, he publicly said that he intended to remain and he will not let these attackers drive him and his family away. Okay? But this damage and all kinds of continued danger prevented this family from living in this house. He said, I'm coming back, I'm going to be there, but this house was never rebuilt. It destroyed the home. It was never reconstructed. The people who were responsible for burning the cross, shooting at the house, throwing rocks, bombing it, all that, never brought the justice, never got in trouble, nothing. Now, this is when this story takes a major turn, okay? Instead of them focusing on who actually bombed this house, who was shooting through the windows, who was breaking the windows and doing all this other white American terrorism, the authorities started looking at the white man, Carl Bradens, say, you're responsible for this, okay? The white community, the authorities said the white man, Carl Bradens, who actually bought him the house, said, you are the one responsible for this. So they disregard the shooting at the house, the cross burning, all that other stuff. Within days, investigators are questioning Carl Bradens. Okay? That's where all the suspicion went to. And their theory is that Carl Bradens intentionally bought this black man and his family the house to enact his broader political plot. Okay? They said, nah, you did this because you're a communist. Okay? They said you're a communist and that's why you did this. You did this because you knew that this would cause some kind of outrage. Now, this occurred during the Cold War, people, and officials, they were looking for all kinds of possible communist involvement in the U.S. In the early 1950s, they had all kind of anti-communist investigations and things like that. Throughout the U.S., they were all against this communism, okay? So the Kentucky officials and the FBI investigated whether this right here with this guy, Carl Bradens, was it connected to communist activity, because they know this guy, Carl Bradens, as a communist. So we have capitalists or capitalism, right? And these are individuals and private companies that can own businesses and property. Then we have communism, which is major businesses and resources are owned collectively or by the state with the aim at reducing economic inequality. So that you have capitalists, communists, capitalism, communism. Both of them are going to be grounded in white supremacy anyway, regardless of how they do it. In America, whether they say, oh, we're going to be capitalists, we're going to be communists, whatever. You all going to be white supremacists in your way. But anyway, let's keep it moving. So in the U.S. at this time in the 1950s, being labeled as a communist, it was like a severe thing. It could be severe consequences if you were that, because many people associated with this communism, with the Soviet Union, and believe it threatened American democracy and all this national security and all this other stuff. So prosecutors, they developed their theory. Their theory was that this guy, Carl Bradens, no, he didn't personally plant the bomb. Instead, they said that he knowingly participated in a communist plan to purchase this house in order to cause racial conflict, and this bombing would result in publicity and inflame tensions and advance these communist goals. So this became the foundation of the criminal case against him. They were like, no, you didn't plan it, but you knew what you were doing. Your goal was to do this whole communism thing. You notice these white people aren't concerned about who shot at it, who did all this other stuff, who put the cross there, none of that. They don't care about their American terrorism. We're concerned about American people possibly being communists. And Carl Brayton, you might have been the one that did that. That's what you were trying to do. You have a communist plan. So Carl Brayton denied all these allegations. He constantly denied being part of any conspiracy. He maintained that he only helped Andrew Wade because the Wades were denied the opportunity to buy a home due to racial discrimination. He believed that the Wades should have the same right as anybody else to live where they choose. And he says, I have nothing to do with that bombing. So the focus was not on the bombers. Again, people, it wasn't on the American terrorists who terrorized black people and black communities. No, we want to make sure you're not a communist and you're not on this old Soviet Union type stuff. Okay. So in the year of 1954, September 1954, the Commonwealth's attorney by the name of Scott Hamilton, he called a grand jury to investigate the violence surrounding the Wade's house. But this investigation focused only on the Bradens, the husband and wife, Carl Brayton and his wife, who were the white activists who they say supported the Wade family, not on the other people again. So they brought Ann Brayton and the wife, the white wife. She was questioned about communism. On September 15th, 1954, Ann Brayton, she testified before a grand jury. They asked her about people she knew, political organizations, Communist Party connections. She refused to answer some questions about other people's political beliefs and associations, but she answered what she wanted to answer. So next, the authorities, they went and they searched the homes of several white supporters of the Bradens. They took their political books, their pamphlets, other literature. Outcome. On October 1st, 1954, Carl and Ann Brayton and several of their other white supporters were arrested and charged with sedition. What's sedition? That's advocating or participating in an attempt to overthrow the government by force or violence. They even charged one of their group supporters by the name of Vernon Brown with bombing the house. Actually, they said that you're the one who actually bombed it, and he has proof that he was way outside the state when the explosion happened. They didn't care. Okay, so the authorities arrest them, raid their home, pulled out 800 books, and attempted to use all their reading material and political beliefs as evidence of a revolutionary conspiracy. And the prosecutors eventually, they announced their theory. They said, this is the state. They said that this house purchase was not an effort to help a black family. They said that you all, the Bradens and your associates, you participated in a communist plan to move the Wade family into this neighborhood, deliberately cause a racial conflict knowing that you moved them in there and it'll happen. Then you arranged this bombing, and what you wanted to do was eventually help overthrow the state of Kentucky's government. So the Bradens, the Carl Brayton and his wife, they denied this whole theory. Carl Brayton was tried first. His trial started on November 29th, 1954. The jury, entirely white, 11 men, 1 woman, packed courtroom, newspaper coverage, all that there, you know. And the prosecution's evidence was simply your political beliefs. They brought in FBI associated witnesses, people who were former members of the Communist Party, all kinds of other stuff. You know, they get their snitches and all kinds of other stuff, people like that. They did bring a surprise witness in by the name of Alberta Ahern, and she's somebody that the Bradens know, and she told them that, yeah, Carl and Ann, they tried to recruit me into the Communist Party, but her testimony didn't connect Carl to this Wade house bombing, okay? But outcome, Carl Brayton was convicted. On December 13th, 1954, the jury found him guilty of sedition. They said that, yes, You were part of a communist conspiracy, helping Andrew and Charlotte Wade buy that house in that white neighborhood, and this was part of a plan to create racial conflict, and as a result, it would help advance the communist objectives and overthrow the government ultimately, okay? They didn't charge him with personally planting the bomb, but they did find Carl Bradens guilty of sedition. He got 15 years in a Kentucky State Penitentiary. That's what he has to do. His wife, Ann Bradens, she remains free. This whole time, Carl Bradens, he's saying that he's innocent. He goes to prison. He maintained, like, listen, all I tried to do was help them get the house. I don't know what you all are talking about. In the meantime, his wife, Ann, is working to raise money for his appeal, bring more eyes and media in the public to this case. She's contacting civil rights organizations, labor organizations, all that, you know, and saying that this man is being punished for opposing segregation rather than committing violence. They got the money up. His people were able to get up $40,000 for him, and they filed that appeal. Carl Bradens' lawyers appealed to the Kentucky Court of Appeals. They argued that Kentucky sedition law could not properly be used against Carl Bradens. This trial focused heavily on political ideas and associations, and the prosecution had not proved that Carl Bradens participated in any bombing. Outcome: Kentucky overturns Carl Bradens' conviction. So Carl Bradens is out. He spent months in prison. He lost his job. He became publicly branded as a communist, and he faced difficulty finding regular employment. Him and his wife, they continued working as civil rights activists with various organizations, particularly through the Southern Conference Educational Fund. But you notice how this man only spent months in prison. Like, that's because he's white. I mean, even with all of that, he's still got the white treatment. This could have not been a black person. A black person would have been in prison for at least 10 years before they even seen him for that appeal. You know what I mean? Maybe 5 to 10 years or something like that. And in the meantime, they would have sending goons into prison to try to hurt him and do something to him. Now, what happened to the black couple, Andrew and Charlotte Wade? Well, again, people, Andrew Wade, he didn't want to leave the house after the house was destroyed. He wanted to stay. He wanted to rebuild and do all this other stuff. He didn't want these attackers to win. Okay. He would continue to come towards the property and stand in front of it and guard the damaged property for a while after this explosion. His mother begged with him and pled with him, please stop doing this. She begged for his wife to talk to him and persuade her son, tell him to stop going by there for his own safety. The family did eventually move. They relocated to West Louisville, where many black families live due to, segregation, probably where they should have been in the first place, right? Because they can purchase a home over here. So they went over there. They lived their life. Andrew Wade, the husband, he did continue to speak about what happened publicly. He maintained that he was simply wanted a safe home in the area for his black family to live in, and he shouldn't have had to go through that. But this man, Andrew Wade, continued to live his life. He's an electrician. He owns his business. He did his thing. He lived his life. Andrew Wade passed away on September 26, 2005 at the age of 83 in Louisville, Kentucky. And his wife, Charlotte Wade, she lived many more years. She passed away on January 11th, 2020 at the age of 91. So that's what happened with this couple right here. People, what do you think about this story? First off, do you think that this white man and his wife bought them this house in this neighborhood knowing what their people, white people, would do to them? Or do you think they were just trying to be some nice white folks? What do you think about that? I think it was a bad idea to do, period, anyway. Like, how could you not know what white peopling is and what these people are going to do? But anyway, do you also think that this Wade family, okay, do you think that Andrew Wade should have just moved to the black neighborhood? Do you think, okay, now I want you to look at Andrew Wade. I want you to look at his wife, because this is important to look at, like, at this time. When I look at Andrew Wade and his wife, I can't name 3 people in my entire family that look like Andrew Wade, his wife. I can go to my street that I was raised on from the top all the way to the bottom and all the side streets. I can't pull out 5 people from New Jersey, Trenton, New Jersey, where I'm from, that look like Andrew Wade and his wife. I can't. I can go to my high school class. I can't show you 5 people that look like Andrew Wade and his wife. We like real black people, like they're considered black. I don't know what's going on with them, but Andrew Wade has that, he has that Thurgood Gumble look. And back then, I know a lot of these Negroes who had that khaki, that Thurgood Gumble look, they thought that they should have been in places with white people. A lot of them got more opportunities because they look like that. If you look at a lot of these NAACP Negroes, they look like him. Quite a few of these black people who had their houses bombed, they look like Andrew Wade and his wife. Not saying that they deserve this, but do you think that the Wade family thought that they were better than other black people because they were khaki looking and might have been mixed with something or something like that? What do you think about that? Do you think that that was to his demise and he's lucky that they didn't all die and he learned a lesson? I don't know, people, what y'all think? Because I don't like to cause black people already got enough battles going on. I don't like to add to the colorism battle, but it is a thing. It's real. Back in these times, you had groups of black people who wouldn't let you in unless you look like Andrew Wade and his wife. So we know it's part of our culture. It's real. And a lot of these people got some of the slave masters' blood in them or more, or whatever it may be, and they were showing they behind. But people, what do you all think about that? Get in the comments, let me know what you think about this story, all of it. Leave your comment, long comment, whatever. I'm gonna go back to this one and read, give your opinions. Link in the description to my masterpiece, The N-Word Is No Secret in the Service. Also, the link to the email list. Go ahead and holler at that list so that you know where the content is if YouTube start doing their thing. Easy.